Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is the sequel to the original film Beetlejuice, which is almost 4 decades in the making. Most of the original cast returns, and its original director Tim Burton. And just like Top Gun Maverick before it, is this a sequel that is too little too late, or is it a surprise hit? Let's review. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice takes place 30 plus years after the events of the first film. Lydia Deetz is now some kind of ghost whisperer, but she has an estranged daughter, and after a death in the family, they go to their old home with Delia Deetz and pack it up, but they soon get a visit from an old friend after accidentally saying his name 3 times. Now, if you've seen my review of the original film, you know how I feel about it. I do appreciate this movie for what it is, and I appreciate the Tim Burton brand after revisiting this movie. But generally speaking, I do not have any nostalgic attachment to this film because I didn't grow up watching it as many times as many others did. So I went into this long-awaited sequel with an open mind. And I'ma say I like this film, but I do think it is a little convoluted, and I'll explain in a little bit. But first off, let me get 2 things out the way. I do appreciate Tim Burton not only coming back, but also bringing some practical imagery to this film. It helps it maintain the spirit of the original, it maintains the same brand that the original had, and even in 2024, some of that practical imagery looked good. And of course, Michael Keaton, even 30 plus years after the original, he did not miss a step playing Beetlejuice. It's like he just picked up where he left off. This is definitely one of his most iconic characters, and he slipped right back in. Winona Ryder returns as Lydia Deetz, and she has a daughter, Astrid Deetz, played by Jenna Ortega. They have an estranged relationship. Astrid doesn't believe in ghosts like her mother does, but then they go back home, and she soon realizes that her mother was right, and she meets this boy in the town. Lydia is also getting married to somebody, played by Justin Theroux, and he's a bit on the goofy side, but there's a little bit more to his story. Catherine O'Hara plays Delia Deetz once again, and she is just as hilarious in this movie as she was in the original film. She, like Michael Keaton, is like she did not miss a step at all. Quick side note, Jeffrey Jones, who played the father in the original film, let me just say, excuse my ignorance, but thankfully I didn't even say that much about him in the original film, my review of the original film I should say, but I honestly thought the actor had passed away, but shame on me for not doing my research, and the reason that he's not in this movie is because for legal reasons that I did not realize, and yeah, let me just say he's a piece of shit and should be in jail. Otherwise, I understand why he's not in the movie. And the way they the initial reason why they say he's not in the movie was good enough, but then they kind of expanded on it a little bit more and just like, alright, you didn't need to do all that. But my biggest issue with this movie is it's convoluted. It has convoluted story arcs that don't really mesh well, or they don't give enough time to it. I mean, I do like that the original film, it wasn't even that long. The story in the original film was simple and to the point, whereas with this, it had too many storylines to balance, and none of them got the proper resolution or attention that it needed. And let me explain why. You got a estranged relationship between Lydia and her daughter Astrid. Lydia is about to get married to Justin Theroux's character. Astrid meets this boy in town, and there's a whole story with him that was interesting in itself, but didn't get the resolution that it needed, or I should say, didn't come to a satisfying resolution. There's this whole thing with Delia Deetz and her dealing with the death of her husband. Beetlejuice gets a visit from his ex-wife, played by the beautiful Monica Bellucci, and I must say she had an awesome introduction, but she didn't get the resolution that was needed for that, or I should say, didn't really get the proper resolution. You got this one ghost played by Willem Dafoe, who his character in the movie is an actor, and now he's essentially has the same job in the afterlife, which is an actor, and you really could have cut him out of the movie and the movie would have made no difference. And then of course you got Beetlejuice still trying to get married to Lydia. There's just too many story arcs going on in this movie that the film just lacks focus. That being said, I still enjoyed this movie for what it was, but again, you gotta also understand, I don't have the nostalgic attachment to the original film, so I kind of went into this one with an open mind and just accepted it for what it was, essentially. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna let those flaws go under my radar. Ultimately, what saved the movie for me was actors being able to slip back into roles, get more hijinks from Beetlejuice, you get to see more from the afterlife. The music was awesome. Tim Burton being able to play in this universe again was just fascinating in itself. And the balance of practical effects and special effects I thought worked well in this movie. I can't say I quite love the movie, but as far as quote-unquote legacy sequels go, I'd say this is probably an inoffensive legacy sequel. And that's why I'm gonna give Beetlejuice Beetlejuice the thumbs up emoji.